President Biden was wheels up from Saudi Arabia 24 hours ago, and President Putin will be wheels down in Tehran 2 days from now. The White House says it has gathered intelligence that Iran is preparing to provide Russia with hundreds of drones for use in the war in Ukraine. Iran denies this allegation. The big question is, are the new Cold War battle lines being solidified in the Middle East? To understand more about Washington's reset with Riyadh and Moscow's relationship with Tehran, I want to bring in Vali Nasser. Vali is a professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and a former State Department advisor. Welcome, Vali. First, tell us about this drone business. Is Russia in a kind of tacit alliance with Iran? Is Iran helping the Russians out?
Well, Iran and Russia have had a very strong military and intelligence relationship that goes back to Syria. But this is the first time that we're hearing of a large-scale Iranian military equipment being sold to Russia. So this is a new step, but it really underscores the fact that the relationship between them is strong, and it's mostly in the intelligence and the military field, and it does matter to regional balance of power.
Now, I am struck by one thing. It does suggest that despite all the sanctions, the Iranians are still able to manufacture something as, reasonably sophisticated as high-quality drones.
That's exactly the case. Although we don't know much about these drones and how good they are, but in fact, it's very ironic that it's the White House that is advertising this fact in the Middle East. Maybe they were hoping to, by lumping Iran and Russia around Ukraine, to create a greater dissatisfaction with Iran in Europe. But in the Middle East, the United States is attesting to Iran's technological capability, having weaponry that the Russians would be interested in.
And what about the Biden trip? From your point of view, does it seem like the part of the trip that was intended to solidify a kind of Saudi Arabia, Israel, UAE axis that was pro-American and to a certain extent anti-Iranian, is that dynamic working?
It is not working the way in which United States and Israel would like to portray it, as if that there's a very hard and fast, fault line in the Middle East between Arabs and Iranians. I mean, first of all, Putin's visit to Tehran shows that there are other big powers in the region, and the United States is not the only player, and Russia has very deep relationships around oil and energy with UAE and with Saudi Arabia. Secondly, not all the Arabs that the president met are sold on the idea of lining up against Iran. Egyptians, Jordanians don't have an issue with Iran. Qataris and Omanis are working very hard to make JCPOA work. And even the president himself was not willing to say that JCPOA is dead. And the picture is much more complicated in the sense that UAE and Saudi Arabia are also talking to Iran. UAE is considering reopening its embassy, and the Saudis have been in dialogue with Iran. So this is not quite the Cold War that the president and the Israeli prime minister tried to portray in their joint press conference in Jerusalem. But yes, there is a serious Arab-Iranian